Hi, I'm Terrell Turner, the host of the Finance and Accounting Show. And today we have a great guest on because, one of the things that we like to do is talk to accounting and finance firm owners and professionals from around the world because you'll find that there's a lot that we can learn from each other. And there's a lot of great things going on. Like today's guest, they were named Xero's accounting firm partner of the year for 2022. And I'm excited to hop into the conversation. So stay tuned for today's episode. So without further ado, let me bring on my guest, Jason. Welcome to the show.
Terrell, great to be here, mate. How you going?
All is well, man. All is well. So for those that aren't familiar, can you tell us a little bit, like where are you located right now?
Mate, right now it's Melbourne. It's just after 6 a.m. So I've got myself out of bed bright and early for a great conversation with you. And the caffeine is just kicking in. So yeah, born and bred Melbourne boy in Australia, Victoria.
Nice. One of the things that I find that as I talk to meeting a lot more friends kind of in Australia is like, maybe this is my assumption from the outside looking in. It's like how closely knit and familiar people are in Australia as far as like knowing some of the other finance and accounting professionals out there. Does it feel that way for you being there?
Yeah, 100%, man. We've got a pretty cool accounting community where quite a lot of us see each other as collaborators rather than competitors. And we get together a lot, whether it's like CPA conferences, XeroCon, which is coming up soon. So I think we stay in touch, even though Australia is quite a big place. And, I've got a business partner in Perth, which is 4,000 kilometers away. But it still feels like we're a really tight-knit community and yeah, just lots of communication, lots of reaching out and talking to each other and, touching base to see what's working, what's not working. And I think as an industry, we're really trying to uplift each other to make the small business community a better place. So it's cool. It's good vibes.
Awesome. I love it. It's one of those things that I tell people in the US, like, part of the reason we started this, this show of doing the finance and accounting of bringing on other firm owners that may do somewhat similar work that we do. But part of the reason of bringing them on is because I'm like, there's so much you can learn from each other. And there will probably always be more business owners than there are accounting firms. So it's like there's no shortage of like work to go around. So definitely glad to have you on. And we're going to talk a little bit about your firm. But before we do, tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, sure, mate. I was one of those interesting stories where I never wanted to be an accountant. So actually falling into where I am now, owning an accounting firm with a team of 29 and growing rapidly over the past year. Taking it all the way back, I worked at a surf shop. I sold snowboards. I used to go snowboarding. I was finishing university. I was like, I fell into accounting because my careers advisor was like, well, you did really well at business at school and you're really good at mathematics, so you should be an accountant. And I was like, well, it seems logical. So signed up to business at university, majoring in accounting, and nearly got to the end of it and went, this is not for me. This is not my thing. But my best friend at the time was just like, who's now my business partner in future advisory. So, think back 18 years ago, he went, mate, pull your head in. You've nearly finished your degree. Stop wasting your time snowboarding. You're not even that good. And it's time to get a job. So he got me my first job in the accounting industry. And I even rocked up to the job interview. And here we do BASs, quarterly BASs, which is lodging our GST, to the government on our sales. And I rocked into the job interview. They're like, oh, you're going to be doing lots of BASs. And I walked out going, what the hell's a BAS? Like, what am I doing? So it was, so that was the beginning of my journey into being an accountant and growing through that. So did end up falling in love with it. It wasn't so much the accounting, so to speak, but the working with people, the helping people to understand what came naturally to, sometimes us accountants, things come natural to us. We understand numbers, we can see the way it all marries together, and being able to describe that to a person in the language that they could understand to help them progress in their business was something that was really, really drew me to the industry and to continue to do this work. And I think then working the way through the career of starting off in a local firm out in the suburbs, then working in a city firm where I had more exposure to some international clients around the world, learning about, clients in Singapore or clients in America, and, just kind of broaden the horizon. And then pretty quickly figured out that I wanted to run my own business. I think I was probably only an accountant for about 3 or 4 years. And I went, yeah, like being an entrepreneur or being a business owner is actually what I was meant to do, not just be an accountant. And then, started a firm called RB Tax with Greg, my best friend, and we were just doing tax returns on the side. So it was we were probably about 7 years ago, like really early to adopt the cloud and fully paperless and digital technology, digital engagement, digital signatures, everything that just meant we could be on a laptop. And we actually launched the first version of the business. I was in Bali in a villa. And launched it, and sent little Facebook messages to all our friends saying, hey, can I do your tax return? Like, please trust me, I'll do a great job. And little did they know I was in a pool in Bali, like sitting there tapping away doing their tax. So, and then it's just progressed like crazy since then. Like, even thinking back that was 6 or 7 years ago, and it was just my mate Greg and I smashing out tax returns. And now years on, we look after 400 business groups, 3,500 clients, a team of 29, Xero Accounting Partner of the Year. I feel quite blessed and a lot of gratitude for the way the last couple of years of my career has gone. Being involved in the CPA. So in Victoria, I'm on the committee for the public practice of the CPA. So I represent firms, and I get to be a voice in that forum where I can talk to the CPA about what our members need and what the CPA should be doing for our public practitioners who are running accounting firms. And then also through Xero being the Xero Partner of the Year, I was fortunate to be selected to be on their Partner Advisory Council. So working closely with a technology company to sit with their senior leadership team to look at how they can help make accounting firm lives easier, owners' lives easier, and bookkeepers, and then also small business owners. So kind of fingers in a lot of pies and lots going on. But man, it's a fun journey. Like, I think, you got to really, really enjoy what you do to love accounting and love our little world. But it's gold. We're having a good time.
Awesome. I mean, such a rich history there. And I want to take a step back and just kind of like break a little bit of that down, kind of go piece by piece. First question is, now this shows my ignorance on geography of Australia. Like,
Sure.
is snowboarding a really big deal in Australia?
Absolutely not. It's so not a big deal. It was like, what was that, 21, 22, 23-year-old Jason was just trying to find any excuse to do anything. Like, probably should have been doing surfing. Surfing's definitely much more of a bigger deal, but I was no good at it. Not even that good at snowboarding, to be honest. But just the surf shop I worked at, which sold snowboards, I could get tickets or lift passes to one of the local mountains. So kind of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I'd take off and snowboard, and then I'd come back and work Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And that was just kind of the rhythm and the routine I got into. But no, snowboarding is definitely not a big deal here. We barely get snow. We've got a couple of little mountains that would probably be dwarfed by what you guys get access to over there. And I think the nearest thing to us that was worthwhile doing was New Zealand. New Zealand's got some pretty cool mountains and some good snowboarding, and fortunate enough to get over there as part of what I was up to. But that's why that fizzled out pretty quickly.
Gotcha. Because one of the things, I guess, if you find interest in that, from talking to some people who do snowboard, I mean, there's a little bit of a thrill that they get. Well, a big thrill that they get from that is like, as you kind of transition to focus a little bit more on accounting, did you feel like you still got to experience somewhat of a thrill, or was it like a complete culture shock?
Culture shock. Yeah, no, the thrill of the snowboarding down the mountain, outdoors, fresh air, cold, the gear, all of that. Very different thrill in accounting. I think for me, that sense of purpose was very different. It was a very big shift, and it was actually, part of discovering who I was and what I was meant to be doing. I think snowboarding, Jace, who didn't want to finish university, who, was kind of shying away from the world, that was the guy that hadn't figured it out yet and wasn't sure what he wanted to do. So, I think, having great friends like my business partner and another friend at the time who sat me down and kind of went, no, you're going to finish your degree and you're going to have a crack. And then if you try it and you decide you don't like it, fine, go and do something else. But look, all these years on, I think nearly 10 years doing this now, overall with working for other people and having our own business, it's been the most rewarding thing ever. And the friends that I've made are lifelong. And some of the ways that we've been able to impact people's lives have been, there's memories that I'll have forever. And it's been, even just, I think, how did I end up? Like, I've ended up on like a TV show here with a guy called Koshi, who's, really, a fun name to kind of throw around here. And, through the accounting firm, I've now got a gin company. We make gin and, a coffee business. So like I got to use the accounting world as way of kind of flaring out the entrepreneurial side of growing businesses, doing it different, and getting to do like presentations on stage, running a podcast with my mate Marty, who you met from the numbers game. It's kind of, some people go, oh, you're an accountant, that must be so boring. And it's like, you don't actually know like just how not boring my life is. If anything, I need to like peel it back a little bit and drop a few things because there's just so much going on. But yeah, no, different thrill, but still a thrill altogether. I mean, there's that thrill of helping someone and somebody going, hey, I couldn't do this without you. Like, and you kind of sit back and just go, hey, like, I think you can, but also happy to help fast track your world and get you to where you're going. So big part of that.
That's something that I find to be, something very common where a lot of people talk about, where doing the accounting work itself, like the technical stuff of accounting wasn't much of the, it wasn't much of the thrill. I mean, you kind of get the processes, but then when they made that step from, doing the accounting to now building the firm and actually starting to do the entrepreneurial things around that process, it was like, okay, all right, now the thrill like kicked back in, because it's like I get to marry accounting, which I know and I'm good at, with entrepreneurship. So, when you guys started out, like you said, kind of early on of doing, using some of the cloud-based technology, like how early in your process did you guys hop on with, using the Xero platform?
Day one. So yeah, it was 7 or so years ago. I worked at a firm. I had a great boss. I think having mentors is probably a really good thing that I took away in my junior career, that without a mentor and without somebody more senior really guiding you in your career and taking you under their wing, I don't think you make it as far as fast. I had a really great mentor who was running a very, very good business, and they were just starting to toy around with cloud and technology. They still had the server and the desktop computers and things like that. And I was like, as they started to go slowly, I looked at that as an opportunity and went, ooh, if you move really fast in that space, you'll get a competitive edge and you'll be ahead of the trend. And I think part of that frustration when you are entrepreneurial and you're working in a business where the business owner isn't moving fast enough, you can create some friction. So I sat back going, man, like, we got to start moving faster. And because I always knew I wanted to go out, it almost kind of fast tracked me going, I got to go. I've got to do this, because I couldn't sit back and watch things move as slow as they were moving. But we have good relationships here. I'm not too sure what the Xero community is like in America, but I'm sure it's probably getting there and growing. But with your account manager, so we've got like a relationship manager or account manager at Xero. The relationship manager at the firm I was working at was just this awesome person, Sophie, and I reached out to her and said, look, I want to set up a firm. I need to be on Xero, so on and so forth. And they made it really, really easy. Like, the guidance of the process wasn't just sign up online and do it all yourself. There was another human involved, which I think at the core of Xero's values, human is one of those. And they've obviously, as they've become $1 billion global entity, they've obviously had to work a lot harder to remain human. But so starting off in that cloud space, Greg and I sat down. It was like, okay, what technology do we need to bolt together to build an accounting firm? But it was always starting from building that foundation on a completely cloud basis. So we went, okay, cool. We've got Xero, which allows us to do financials and tax returns, but what other things should we add on? And it's like engagement software so people can pay us properly, and then digital signatures so they don't need to come and print off a bit of paper and post it back to us. And it just kind of flowed from there. But not at any one point did we want to have anything that wasn't cloud and allow us to work flexibly and remote on a laptop from anywhere in the world. And that was kind of like the ethos that we had when we were kicking off. So,
that I think that becomes very interesting, because as I talk to more people in, like, Australia, to where, they talk about, the size of, the business market or the client market in Australia is not as big as it is in the US. And so you start expanding geographically. So, what percentages of your clients are in Australia versus other countries in the region?
oh, look, Australia wise, it'd be 97%. Like we are an Australian focused, Australian specialized boutique accounting firm. So those 400 groups or 3,500 clients that we currently look after, like they are majority Australian owned, or they're like New Zealand and UK entities that have set up subsidiaries in Australia that use us to look after them. Now it's almost the other way around. Like our Australian clients are going, we're going to grow to service other markets in the US and the UK. And, we just had a t-shirt company that did a cap raise here and raised a few $1 million. And now they're launching in the US and Europe, or they're already servicing US and Europe, but they're opening a distribution center in the USA. And they've set up an LLC, and there's all this cool stuff. So that exposure is now starting to happen more and more for our team, where our clients are expanding overseas, which is really exciting to see. But in Australia, it's like in Melbourne alone, there's more than enough clients where I don't really need to service anyone beyond Melbourne realistically. But because of the way a lot of people here, Australia is probably a bit of a leader when it comes to adopting cloud technology and working remotely. So we've got clients in Sydney, in Brisbane, in Perth. Through the Numbers Game podcast, we had a guy listening to the show. He was in Sydney, and he just went, well, I'm not really feeling the love from my accountant. I'm just going to call the guy from the Numbers Game podcast, and his team can take over my accounting. And it was like, he didn't need to meet us. He didn't need to sit face to face to feel comfortable. He went, look, I've listened to you guys on the podcast. I understand who you are and what you do and why you do it. Just take over my stuff, because my accountant doesn't seem to really care. So I think, given that, we've got team members in Perth, we've got a team member in the sunny coast, we've got a few team members in the Philippines. Like we are quite a remote team servicing clients Australia-wide. And yeah, like it is still really cool. I mean, I've thought about, when I think about the vision and the future for future, I go, imagine we had an office in New Zealand and an office in London and an office in New York or LA, somewhere in LA. Like that would be really cool one day to have expanded to that level, where Future Advisory is not just a name known in Australia, but a name that can be a well-known boutique accounting firm where people get great service and great advice, but it doesn't have to be just Australia. I mean, that's a world that I'm kind of interested in exploring one day.
And I think that brings up an interesting dynamic that I'm curious how you guys kind of navigate that, like you said, with having a remote team and you're in different places, but still, you guys have still been able to build a firm that has a very consistent reputation. I mean, for you to be a Xero Partner of the Year, like I said, there are clients that are, across the geography, let's say, of Australia, but they still feel like, hey, I'm working with the Future Advisory firm. Like it's not like, hey, well, this is the Melbourne office is very different from the Sydney office. Like, how did you kind of approach that of making sure, like, hey, that DNA doesn't get lost as you expand?
Culture and values, I think, are probably the main thing that we try and instill in our team to make sure everything feels the same, everything looks the same, every interaction or dealing feels like you're dealing with that someone who gives a crap. It's nearly 2 years ago. So it was our second birthday yesterday. So we just turned 2 years old as an accounting firm, which is quite young in our journey. And we had a firm before that, which we transitioned into future. But so to be 2 years old, we started with a team of 14 2 years ago, and now we're a team of 29. So it's been challenging. It's been challenging to keep that, that culture and the values and that service level to a certain quality when you do scale and grow as fast as that. That's definitely been a challenge as a business owner that we've been, working our way through. And look, to the team's credit, they've all smashed it. They've worked so hard and they're so dedicated. And again, from a gratitude point of view, like I feel so blessed and so lucky to have this incredible team of people that choose to come and work at Future Advisory and be on this journey of helping people have a better future. We talk about, why we exist is to help people have a better future, and a bit of a play on words. But I think it gives people meaning as to why they come to work when they've got a strong mission and a strong vision. And we talk about where we're going and why we're doing it, and our values as a team. So I think that's what kind of ties it all together and makes sure that it feels like, that one business, even as we get bigger, still feels like people are getting that unique service or that, small business service from a bigger team, so to speak. But, our whole focus was, as an accounting firm, think of ourselves more as a customer service business. Like, how do we make sure somebody feels like they're getting, 5-star treatment, or that we roll out the red carpet and make every interaction feel like a nice experience? And that's, I think, when you think about your business in that way, that's a really important thing to do, rather than, I'm sending someone a tax return and doing a set of financials. But no. It's like, how am I serving that person? Like, how's that customer service experience going to be? So.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Now, one of the things that I'm curious about is, you mentioned the podcast. So how has the podcast kind of played a strategy with the firm, or just a strategy in helping you connect with, the potential client community, or even within the rest of the finance community?
It's a good question. Look, I think Nick, Marty, and I always had the vision of having a podcast, and I didn't want to go it alone. I just thought, well, I've got a voice and I can talk underwater, and I'm sure I could get plenty of people on that I could talk to. Nick and Marty and I, when we got together and we talked about business or unpacked a topic, the conversation would just flow. We had good vibes. We had different mindsets and ideas. And I sat there, I had a client that was a podcast producer, and I said, oh man, I'd love to start a podcast. He goes, oh, well, let's do it. And got Nick and Marty in a room and shared the idea with them that an accountant, a mortgage broker, and a financial planner. Now, most people have fallen asleep by the time I roll off those three things, but I'm like, if you give us a chance, like, you'll actually find some gold. And I think what we had was a lot of small business owners, a lot of individuals, they want to improve, but they don't know where to start. And for us, we felt like we had a lot of information to share that was valuable and help. Again, like, it was that whole, like, just helping people. We didn't do it because we wanted to make more money or grow our businesses necessarily. That's a byproduct of helping people. So if you set out with the good intentions of, let's just share value. If we share value, good karma is going to come back our way, and things should happen. And as we started going through, like, I listened back to episode number 1 and 2 and 3 and kind of go, man, geez, we sounded a bit shy and a bit nervous back then. And now I think we're recording episode 67, 68, and 69 today, a year onwards, and we've continued to find content that's relevant to our audiences. We've interviewed some people that have added value to our audience as well. And branding it separate to Future Advisory and Innovate, which is Nick and Marty's business, was more, again, not to make it seem like that it had to be about like our accounting firm or our financial planning mortgage broking firm. It was the numbers game. We're there just to share valuable information. And I think sometimes, in what we do, where we work with somebody, one-on-one, there's only so much time you've got to share information with someone one-on-one. And this format for us was about a one-to-many. So that even when a client goes, hey, I want to do a business plan, where do I start? It's like, cool, I'll send you a link to an episode where we talk for 25 minutes about where to start on your business plan. They go, oh man, that's awesome. Thanks so much. So now we're trying to start to use it as if we notice problems that people are having during the week or day to day, how do we then create a podcast episode about that? So, one that's coming up will be about government grants. So in Australia at the moment, across the whole of Australia, there's 676 different business grants that you can get at the moment. But we feel like not a lot of business owners really know or understand how can they access this free money from the government right now. So, we'll look to put together a podcast, simple half an hour episode talking about how to do it, where to start, what they can access, what are the top 5 or 10 that we think people should be really jumping on right now. And that's an example then of how this platform that we've created, which it's growing and it's exciting to see the numbers. And we probably didn't really anticipate that it would be where it is right now and would be getting the feedback and the reviews that we have. But man, and look, to be honest, I thought it was going to feel like a lot more effort and feel like, but it's, I think with anything, consistency is key. And if you're consistent and you commit to it, you'll see the results. And yeah, it's nice to be at a point now where, I think the flow on that's come from that as well, like what we see is not just, yes, we've won some new clients, which help kind of subsidize the cost of running a podcast and investing our time. And there's a lot of time, energy, and effort that goes into it. But the additional things like you say of, being recognized and noticed in the industry or being approached for speaking gigs. Next March, there's an accounting and business expo, which gets thousands of people to come to that show. And they've asked me to do a stage presentation about the numbers game. And it's like, whoa, when I started the podcast, did I think I would be actually on stage in front of people physically presenting about a podcast? Probably not, but there we are. So it's definitely opening up opportunities in different areas that I hadn't expected, but open to it. Nice. And it's cool. And we're absolutely loving it.
Awesome. So now for the future firm, where can people find you guys online?
Yeah, look, I think our website's probably a pretty cool place to start, futureadvisory.com.au. I think as an accounting firm, it doesn't necessarily look and feel like a normal accounting firm would. We tried to go a little bit crazy with rocket ships and aliens and some drawings just to kind of spice it up a little bit, make it interesting. So outside of that, I mean, Instagram, we've got a great little Instagram that we invest in. We love our social media and online presence. And website we're pretty proud of. It's the boys that built that have done a pretty good job.
Awesome. I love it. Well, before we wrap up, one question that I love asking every guest, I mean, we've talked about a lot of great things and there have been a lot of different gems that you've shared with us. If you were talking with someone and said, hey, I was on the finance and accounting show. Hey, when you listen to my episode, hey, here are 2 big takeaways that I want you to have. What would your 2 big takeaways be?
Mate, I love a vision. I love knowing that, you've thought about the future and where you're heading. So for me, having a very good idea about, why you're doing what you're doing and plan it out and have a vision, but get it out of your head and develop that plan on a page. I think so many business owners don't have a plan on a page. So their mission, their vision, their values, and what are they trying to achieve in the short term and long term? Write all that stuff down. If you get it out of your head and write it down and focus on it, it's amazing the power of having a strong vision and what that does to you. So, if it's a burning desire for you to get from here to here, you need to actually articulate that, write that down and share that with people. So I think that's probably something that's underutilized by a lot of people is that, they might have a goal or a vision, but they keep it internalized and they don't share it. It needs to be out. It needs to be open and you need to have that shared with your team.
Awesome.
And the second, I think, look, in our 2 years of growing Future Advisory, we've made a lot of mistakes. And I think if you see mistakes and don't learn from them and learn fast, that's where you can fall over as a business owner when you're on this journey of growing a business. So I think, being open to failing, but fail fast, learn from it and continue to pivot and adapt. And I think that's in this day and age where, times are interesting moving forward and, we're going to have to try new things and experiment to push forward in business and in life. And I think as long as you're open to failing fast, learning from it and moving on, I think people who are scared to fail will sit back and go, no, I'm not going to try that new thing because I'm worried that it might not work. But if you sit back and don't try, you'll never know what could have been if you'd implemented that piece of technology or that business idea and it works out. Well, think about that world and what that's like. So don't be afraid, give things a go and have a crack.
Awesome. I love it. Oh, Jason, thank you so much for being an amazing guest. It's been a pleasure having you on.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Finance and Accounting Show. If you like what you heard, don't be selfish. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and then share this with a friend, because you know a business owner that could definitely use this insight. So be sure to hit that subscribe button, share it with a friend, and turn on the notification bell so you get all the updates when we release a new episode.